life. Today we're going to be talking about practicing this science. So, welcome, Betty. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Excellent. All right. So, being is being. Belief is a misstatement about being, which creates a seeming in consciousness which hides being. Belief is a self admission, a temptation, an illusion. There is no believer. Belief is a self admission, the admission of selfhood where self is not.
Yeah, that's quoting from Margaret in her book, Practice, Not
Yes.
Profession.
Yes. And if we have what is called inharmony, we may be sure we have identified ourselves as a believer in the personal or human sense of harmony. Inharmony is not the error. A personal sense of harmony is the error. That's our concept of harmony, right?
Yep.
So the human mind alone suffers. Hence, to identify oneself with that belief of mind makes suffering inevitable. The seeing is the seen, both individual and collective. The sinner we think we see there is the sin, duality belief, ignorance and false belief here. One is never imposed upon by an evildoer, but by the belief of evil suggesting itself as a believer and that believer's one's self. I don't know if I quite get that sentence.
Well, you're never imposed on by an evil doer. The belief of evil suggesting itself as you is the believer. You buy that.
So it's the belief of evil.
And you're in the soup.
Okay, got it. Okay, cool. So whatsoever measure ye meet shall be measured back to you again. So what we put out, we get back.
That's right.
What is apparent?
You only have what you put out. All of your life is your putting out.
Yes.
And what I put out there is what I get back because there's nothing else out there.
Right. So what is apparent as measured back to you is your own reflected measuring.
Yep.
Man, as conscious identity, is always giving, never receiving. And that's directly from Practice Not Profession. Right here, Practice Not Profession, Margaret Laird's pamphlet, and that's on pages 42 and 43.
Yep.
So let's see. Let me see. Life's demonstration. So all the way through this, where it says life's demonstration, it should say practice, not profession. That's my bad. I didn't get that until I just looked at it. So that's my bad. The page numbers are right, but it's practice, not profession, not life's demonstration. Okay. All right. So on we go. So as a first quote, and anytime you want to leave a question or a comment, you can put them in the comments. We'll get those and we'll bring them in. So let's make this a conversation. And if you like the conversation at any point that we go along, you can go ahead and click the heart or the thumbs up and all of that. We would love it. And if you're on YouTube and you're not a subscriber yet, please subscribe and check the notifications and everything so you never miss a session. All right. So all of that out of the way, here we go. So from Practice Not Profession on page 1, all is mind and antimatter, as discovered by the physicist, is the strongest force in the universe.
Yeah, you need to really get that. If all is mind, then all of it is antimatter, which means that the language world you're walking through, believing in, dealing with, trying to fix, manage, and organize doesn't actually exist the way you see it.
Right.
What that is language in a way that you can understand it of a reality that's perfect, whole, complete right now and present and seen as what you see.
Mm-hmm.
So you generate your own language by your perception of the reality present.
Right.
So when we complain about our lives, what we're complaining about is our own inability to see clearly. And that inability is connected to your belief about yourself. If I think I'm a thinker and I can't figure it out, I'm centered in the human picture of me instead of the reality of me. And the picture of me can never figure anything out.
Right.
So
Right.
the fact of the matter is that the way it looks is not the way it is. The way it looks is just the way it looks.
Yeah.
So science comes along and says, hey guys, everything is mental. It's all mind. It's all consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So then I really generate the world I walk through because it's my consciousness that's feeding me the story.
Mm-hmm.
My own awareness, my own perception.
Mm-hmm.
So it behooves me to pay attention to my seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep. And Science and Health, Mary Baker Eddy said it this way on page 292, starting on line 7. Truth will be to us the resurrection and the life only as it destroys all error and the belief that mind, capital M, the only immortality of man, can be fettered by the body.
Yeah, by your conscious thought. You know, Mrs. Eddy says body is conscious thought.
Mm-hmm.
So you're fettering yourself with your conscious thought.
And fettering is limiting what?
Touched by,
Touched by.
manipulated by.
Okay.
It's all
So,
personal.
okay,
It's
all
personal
personal sense. Truth will be to us the resurrection and the life only as it destroys all error. And that includes the belief of mind, the only immortality of man can be fettered by the body. So
Yeah,
if we
believe that
think
anything
that
else
mind
can
can be
influence.
fettered by the body, manipulated, if we believe that mind, capital M, can be manipulated by the body, then we have no idea what truth is.
We're living in the personal sense of ourselves.
Right. Fictitious.
So we have no real perception of truth,
Okay.
no reality present.
Correct.
We're playing in the language world and
Correct.
we get back what we put out and then we
Right.
complain about it. You know, Ms. Eddy has a famous quote that says, the false sense of life produces the ills of which we complain.
Right. Yep. Okay. Man would be annihilated were it not for the spiritual man's indissoluble connection with his God. What's another word for
Love that word,
indissoluble?
indissoluble. It can't be dissolved.
Indissolvable? Give me
Indissoluble.
another word. Give me another word for indissoluble.
I'm not a dictionary, Kim.
You just play one on the live stream.
Well, if it's soluble, it melts right away.
Right.
Indissoluble means it can't be melted.
So
Can't be dissolved.
so it cannot be dissolved.
Yeah.
Okay. Indissoluble. I can hardly even say it. All right. Very good. Clear as mud to everyone, I'm sure, on this call. All right. Anything more about that?
No.
Okay. All right. And then in Mind as the Athlete on page 76, you wrote, we live and experience either consciously or unconsciously our own perceptions of reality.
That's right.
So, and that's all we've got. We live and experience our own perception, our point of view of reality.
No, it's not your point of view. It's your perception.
Okay. So give me the difference between perception and point of view.
Perception involves some comprehension, some understanding. Point of view is just the look, you know.
Okay. All right. But perception has some understanding of, I may perceive lots of things, but none of them may have to do with reality.
That's right. But your perception tells you what. It shows you where you're standing with regard to reality, actually.
Okay.
If
Say
I'm
more about that.
standing in the language view, and that's my reality, then I'm a victim of everything going on around me.
Okay.
So if my perception is educated by science, which says, Betty, all is infinite mind, not a human brain figuring things out, but an infinite intelligence, universally present.
Yeah.
The God idea is all there is in reality, and man is the expression of that. Well, that presence gives you the life you live.
Right.
That understanding of that, the acknowledgement of that, I don't know what other word to use for that. But if I have science for my perception, then I'm going to not be influenced by the way it looks. I'm going to be looking for the value present that I can only see in that language.
Mm-hmm.
So I look around and I say, okay, I consciously am. That I know.
Right.
Does it mean that the way it looks is the way it is? No, it doesn't mean that. It just means it is. What
Right.
it is, we're into discovering. Self-discovering is all that's going on in the human living of being.
Yeah.
And discovering the self allows you to let go of your attachment to the belief of yourself.
Right.
If I'm stuck with Betty, I'm stuck with lots of stuff, limitations, and all kinds of beliefs about getting
Right.
older and so on.
Right.
But if I realize that that is the picture and that the self present is not something that ages, I get some freedom from that belief.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Right. So the idea is to be a perceiver of fact.
Yeah, it says we live and experience, either consciously or unconsciously, our perceptions of reality. And interestingly enough, we don't seem to get moved to take a look at our perceptions unless there's a problem and we're unhappy and we've got something that isn't working. And then we say, I'm not going to put up with that. Well, then what are you going to do about it? Who am I being? What am I buying into?
Right.
The language? Yeah, that's the thing I'm not happy with. So leave the language alone. Mrs. Eddy said, leave that basis of belief and unite with the one mind.
Right.
I just have to leave it alone and say, okay, we live and move and have being as the experience, the action of the God idea.
Right.
Oh, okay. Literally, the heck with Betty. Let's move on.
Right. Right. All right. And light on Practice Not Profession, page number 2. Margaret Laird wrote, love is the principle that fulfills the law in the practice of science.
Yeah. Okay. Any question about that?
We'll say a little more about that.
Well, if I live and move and have being as the atmosphere of love, I'm going to experience life differently than if I think I live and move and have being as the victim of a human situation.
Right. Because love is one of the synonyms.
Yeah. The atmosphere of love is the atmosphere of the God idea.
Right. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. And in Science and Health, Mary Baker Eddy on page 361, starting on line 23, wrote, a human perception of divine science, however limited, must be correct in order to be science and subject to demonstration.
Yeah. So you're human.
I don't understand. I don't know that I agree with that statement.
Okay.
So a human perception of divine science, however limited, must be correct in
Yeah,
order to
what
be
is your
science
perception
subject to
of it?
demonstration. And I would say that, but what about the consciously or unconsciously? All that is perfectly is, whether I see it that way or not.
Yeah,
So a human,
that's your human perception of science, isn't it?
sorry, say again.
Say what you were saying.
Well, I'm just saying a human perception of divine science, however limited, must be correct
Yeah.
in order to be science and subject to demonstration. And I'm saying there's a lot of things that happen and show up in everyday life, whether I'm consciously or unconsciously present to the facts of
Well,
being.
it's saying, what's your human perception of science? What is that?
My human perception,
Yeah.
I could say all is infinite mind.
Okay. And if I ask John Smith out on the street, what's your perception of Christian Science? You know what he'd say? Oh, it's that nutty religion.
It
You know?
doesn't take medicine. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is your human perception of science? However limited, it must be correct. Well, if you think it's a nutty thing, it's not correct.
Well, it's
You
correct
don't
to
have,
them.
you don't have a perception of science that's
Right.
valid. That's
Well,
what it's saying. So
okay.
you have to have a correct perception of science to make any sense out of anything that she's written.
Right. I understand that. But then
Okay.
it says, and subject to demonstration. It has to be correct in order to be a science and be subject to demonstration.
That's right. That's right.
But you can have an experience of all kinds of things and not label it science and
Well,
not.
it doesn't say anything about labeling.
Huh. Okay.
If
I
you,
just think demonstration is demonstration. Things showing up in your life are showing up in your life.
that's right.
Whether you have a human perception that's correct in the science view or not. Does it change the fact that only one thing's going on?
Well, your perception is what establishes the fact, period.
So I won't perceive it as a demonstration unless I have a correct view of science.
What?
I'm just trying to understand this. I'm hung up by the in order to. The human perception of divine science, however limited, must be correct in order to be science. And it just seems to me like she's got two things going on, and it confuses me because then it's like, okay, well, then I don't have a human perception of science, so I can't recognize or be subject to a demonstration.
What do you mean you don't have a human perception of science? What are we
Well,
talking
if a human perception of divine science, however limited, must be correct in order to be science and subject to demonstration.
Yep. I'm no problem with that whole sentence.
Okay. Doesn't have two things going on?
Nope.
Seriously.
No,
I thought you said in order to's are just, they're like, don't go there.
I don't go there, but that's what she wrote.
I know, but that's what's got me hung up.
Well, you're picking at words. I'm just saying that.
Well, that's all. I'm just looking at it like, isn't there two things going on there? Because she's saying a human perception's got to be correct or you'll have no demonstration. That's
Well,
how
yeah.
it reads for me.
It's just like I don't have much, there could be statements about what makes the world go around. If I have no understanding of that, I'd say, phew,
Right. Like when I talk to you about technology.
yeah, it works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so does science.
Got it. All
Now,
right.
the one that's effective.
Just said it works. Whether you have a perception and demonstration or whatever, it's working.
Well,
It's the operable law, whether you acknowledge it or not.
Going back to the sentence before that, a human perception of science, a human perception of anything. A human perception of anything, however limited, must be correct for it to function in your life. A human perception of computer science.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, I got it. I got it. All right. Sorry, guys. Everyone out there that's like kind of shaking your head, wondering when I'm going to give up on this. I got it. So on we go. All right. So that which when sown bears immortal fruit. Here we go. That which when sown bears immortal fruit enriches mankind only when understood. Right. Because if you don't understand it, you might think it's a weed when it's not really a weed.
Okay.
All right, shall we continue? Anything else you want to say there? I promise I'll be good.
No.
Okay. All right. And then in your book on page 76, you wrote reception is a myth. There is nothing out there to receive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All is being, not receiving.
Right.
You can't give and get. You
Right.
just can be.
Right. Got it. Okay. Now, on page 2 of Practice Not Profession, Margaret Laird wrote, we nullify externality by leaving the mortal basis of belief and thinking out from mind, capital M.
See, when you can consciously be present to the facts of reality, that would be out from mind.
Right.
If I'm consciously swamped with the picture, that's out from language. There's a difference in your experience.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Makes sense. Understanding assumes the authority of mind.
Yeah, I shouldn't be an R in there.
I know. I took it out in my reading. Understanding assumes the authority of mind.
Yes.
Okay, because it's in the understanding
Then it makes
that everything.
that it functions.
Right.
Because that's your being of it.
Yes.
Your understanding of something is your being of it.
Yes.
And that's
Got
what
that.
runs your show for you.
Right.
So to speak.
Right. In Science and Health on page 557, line 10, Mary Baker Eddy wrote, science reveals harmony as proportionately increasing as the line of creation rises towards spiritual man.
Mm-hmm. Your experience of peace and joy and power seems to be more present. You
Right.
see.
Sure, as your understanding is clear.
That's right.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Divine science rolls back the clouds of error with the light of truth and lifts the curtain on man as never born and never dying, but as coexistent with his creator.
Yeah. This man word, if I can use it, is really manifestation of the God idea. It's not a two-legged animal doing this and that and something else.
Right.
And the God idea in action is what we call man.
Yep.
And that distinction is important to let go of the belief that you have something besides the God idea running the show.
Yep.
If I think Betty can make a difference, I'm in trouble. It may look like she makes a difference here and there, but it will never amount to a hill of beans.
Right.
Because the only thing that's effective is being itself being. And this is what it looks like.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, very cool. All right. And in your book on page 76, you wrote, the nature of oneness precludes a recipient.
Yeah. One thing going on, there's nobody out there. There's nobody to give and nobody to receive and nobody to do and to do for and to fix for. There's no giving and taking. None of that stuff. That's all language stuff.
So it may look that way. That is not the way it is.
Language is always looking like something and never being something.
Right.
Yeah.
So what this is, the nature of oneness precludes a recipient, is the nature of oneness is being itself being.
And there's nothing else.
Right.
So there is no recipient.
Right. Soap in all directions.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Now we have a comment. So 1 second, I shall pull it up. It's from Dominique. Manas in Sanskrit means mind. The word comes from that. Which word are we?
Thank you.
Which word?
Manas.
Manas? Oh, because man and manifestation. Manas in Sanskrit means mind. The word comes from that. Excellent.
Yes.
That's
Isn't that
excellent.
good?
Thank you so much. All right. Anything else you have to say on this subject, Betty?
Nope.
No,
Not unless there's a question.
not unless there's a question. All right. This is your chance. This is the chance for questions. I just want to let you guys know that we are sponsored by the Institute of Metaphysical Science. It's a nonprofit charitable trust, and you can donate your support in. You can go to the website, scientificmetaphysics.org/donate. And if this live stream makes a difference, we would appreciate any of that. You can also get Practice Not Profession or any of the other books and or recordings and seminars you can purchase out there as well. And then, of course, sorry, I have an itch. Of course, there is also about 160 videos on this YouTube channel that you can also go through and watch on almost all subjects. And we will see you here next week, same time. So 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central. We did start about 6 or 7 minutes late today, and I apologize about that, but we shall see you next week, same time. All right. Anything else, Betty? All right. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. Talk to you next week.